Hi, Karan. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me, Kankan.
Thanks, Karan. Thank you so much for coming in, but thanks a lot. I know you all have
Mhm.
been going through this pandemic. You're in Pune, right? Yeah. I
Yeah,
know.
based out of Pune, Maharashtra.
Scene out there in Pune is not good, but thank you so much for coming in.
Hmm.
And so a small introduction before we go ahead to all my viewers.
Hmm.
So Karan Chauhan, you have been one of the top, top tier MMA, artist from India, so to say. You were a gold medalist at the 2020 MMA Indian Nationals in the featherweight division, right? And you're also a bronze medalist in the
Hmm.
2019 MMA Indian Nationals, both in April
Hmm.
and June, right? And
Yes.
you also have participated in the 2019 IMMAF World Championship, right? And yes, you are also have been
Yes.
a knockout and a submission artist, so to say. Yeah, you have to your name 7 knockouts and 4 submissions. So you are a knockout
Hmm.
specialist, a submission specialist, so to say. Yeah. So thank you so much, Karan,
Um,
coming in. Now having
Thanks for having me,
talk,
man.
yeah, thank you so much. Talking about MMA as a sport, of course, it's it has evolved, over the years. Of course, MMA, we had kickboxing as a sole discipline. We had Muay Thai.
Hmm.
We had always had
Hmm.
boxing and wrestling as a single discipline, right? But MMA, I guess, is
Right.
still evolving and it's getting only better. And now that we've got so many,
Hmm.
promotional events like UFC, One Championship, Bellator. So obviously, MMA
Hmm.
is now,
Yeah,
it's a full-grown thing, right? But still it's new, and
absolutely.
yeah, and in that whole new scenario, India is still evolving. We're still getting things in place, and of course now I
Hmm.
think we are getting better, with somebody like Arjun Singh Bhullar, who is now the heavyweight champion at the One Championship. So in this
Hmm.
entire scheme of things, where did you start your journey?
Hmm.
Because it being new and in a totally entire new system, how did your journey
Hmm.
start? Because you're only 21 years, I guess, right? Yeah, or 20.
I'm 22. I just turned 22.
Okay,
Yeah.
20,
So
yeah.
yeah,
So how
yeah.
did your
Well,
MMA journey start? In this entire new scheme of things, that you had in the background. Yeah.
mhm. Well, before MMA, I did boxing, and one sec before I go ahead with anything, I want to take the chance to congratulate Arjun Singh Bhullar for
Yes.
doing all that he's done, and for being such a role model for Indian MMA, for being this sort of person that broke through, that won India's first major world championship.
True. Yeah.
Congrats to Arjun Singh Bhullar
Yes.
if this reaches you. Thank you so much.
I'm sure
Um,
it will. Yeah.
so yeah, so with MMA, now before MMA, I began boxing when I was 10 years old. I used to get bullied a lot in school, and my school offered up a boxing program. And my my mom's uncle was a boxer in the Merchant Navy when he was sailing, when he was in service. So when I uh, when I started boxing was in 2008. I think 2000. I started training in 2007 with my mom's uncle. So one day I went to my mom and I complained to her, telling her that I was getting bullied in school. She said, "No,
Oh,
Baba,
okay.
I'm coming to
Yeah.
the principal with you tomorrow. I'm going to complain for you." She happened to be with her uncle that day, luckily for me, or so I thought, because my uncle put me through a lot of hell for 1 year, training me, and he said, "Your
Okay.
school offers up a boxing program, right? You're going
Mm-hmm.
to start boxing. You're never going to get bullied in your life again." And many people don't believe me when I say this, but the first opponent that I had a year later, like after 1 year of training under my mom's uncle, was the guy that used to bully me.
Really? Okay.
And
It's something
yeah,
like
this was something straight out of a movie. It
yeah,
was
yeah,
it was
yeah,
something straight out of a
yeah,
movie.
yeah, yeah.
It sounds very
I know. Yeah.
unrealistic, but it is what it is.
Yeah. No, I mean
I
it's
ended up
something very
knocking him
similar
out in
to
30
Israel
seconds.
Adesanya's story, right? Even Israel Adesanya has the same, had the same background to it. He was also bullied in school, and then
I
ultimately he
suppose.
faced that same
Yeah.
guy in a match
Mhm.
wherein he just knocked
Yeah.
him out, something of that sort. Yeah, yeah, true.
Not too sure. I'm not too sure about that, but yeah, no. In my case, I faced this dude that was 2 years older than me, much bigger than me, although we were in the same weight class. Uh, so I knocked him out in 30 seconds, and that was how my journey in boxing and MMA
Wow.
began.
Okay.
I haven't
Mm.
looked back ever since. Yeah, I started MMA though when I was 15, going on 16, and I started competing when I was 17, on and off, because I just gotten into college. I had to study, so I started competing properly when I was 20 years old in 2019.
Okay. Mm.
Right, and you know the rest. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. True. Yeah. Yes. So I mean, you're still only 22,
Yeah.
so obviously you're getting better. And now that
Hmm.
India getting a foothold there, I'm sure you'll only get better from here on. Now talking about MMA again, coming back to MMA as a sport, of course now it's getting bigger and bigger. Now we've got so many MMA promotion companies like we already spoke about. You've got a UFC, you've got one championship, Bellator, and so many others coming in. So where do you think India will be, standing in the next, say, 5-6 years, now that we really have got a foothold here? And we also got so many other guys like, Gurdarshan, Mangat, we've got, Ritu Fogart, and so many other guys out there. So where do you see India in the next maybe couple of years? I'm not saying couple of years, I'm saying maybe 5-6 years down the line.
So compared to what we were in 2010, India has grown exponentially in the sport of MMA, right? You see people that who started out in MMA and now getting into bigger promotions. People who started out when they were pioneers of MMA in this country almost. So you have pros like Dhruv Chaudhary. You've got people like who are excellent coaches. Ashwin Hoon, Ajit Sagamani from Chennai, Ashwin Hoon from Delhi, putting in proper, well established, well thought about, and well educated. Well educated systems in play, right? So with the evolution of the sport while training, not just by getting anybody can get bigger and bigger fights. It matters about how you perform when you get to that bigger stage, right? So evolving with the sport means evolving in training, means evolving and catching up with new training methods that are being established in other parts of the world, in the West. So I feel like in the next 5-6 years, India is going to be one country that takes the world of MMA by storm, because I've seen people not just take on and beat people from India, beat people from around the world, but also people that are starting out perform at a much higher level because their level of training has been that much better than it was. Let's say a beginner that began training maybe 5-6 years ago would not have the knowledge that a beginner does now.
True. Yeah.
So with people who are educated about the sport, people who are sport nerds like me, people who study the sport, people who study systems, people who educate themselves about good technique, transitions, and so on and so forth. I feel like because everybody is so well educated on the sport now, or better than they were in the past, I think that it's just taken Indian MMA to that next level right now. So and I think given 5-6 years, who knows what can happen.
True. So we'll have more Arjun Singh Bhullar in the line now.
Yeah, definitely.
Sure. Now, so talking about your discipline, of course, when you're talking about MMA, we are talking about so many disciplines, right? It's all so many things in the same bucket, right? You're talking about Muay Thai,
right.
Kickboxing. We are talking about grappling. We are talking about BJJ. We are talking so many things: boxing, wrestling. You know? But what is your prime discipline, so to say? I mean.
So I started out in boxing, but I later got quite the affinity to Jiu-jitsu. So I started training with Warriors Cove MMA. Started training with my friend Sean, who was from Warriors Cove MMA while he was studying over here, and very quickly became what I like to think is sort of proficient in Jiu-jitsu. And I saw how effective it was when in the World Championships I lost my fight on the ground. I got submitted on the ground. Not to say that I didn't know any Jiu-jitsu then. I just wasn't that refined. 2 months later, I won my first gold medal in my nationals by using Jiu-jitsu on the ground. So so I saw the effectiveness of it there. I saw, I saw how many fights it could win me used the right way. So I'd like to describe my style as sort of boxing / Jiu-jitsu.
Okay, true. Okay. Now, if say you are now of course you're a mix of everything, right? I mean, you're not only a boxer, you're also a jiu-jitsu specialist. So you're not
sort of work everything.
Yes, true. I mean, so you've got a good stand-up game, but you also good on the ground, right? So, but say a typical kickboxer, for example, and we've got somebody like Isreal Adesanya. Okay, I'm taking a different example as a whole. Now, how does now you're a mix of everything, so that's why I'm not putting you in that example. How would say a typical like a Isreal Adesanya, who being a typical kickboxer, would fight somebody who is a typical grappler, who would be good in BJJ? So how would, say, in 10 days time frame, will he really focus only on his own strength, but he will also have to take into consideration that that other guy is so good on the ground? So how will a guy in an MMA situation will figure it out and that balance both things out?
Okay, so what you need to understand is that somebody that comes from such a strong base in striking, doesn't only have to focus on his weaknesses. He has to continue working everything and know how to use his strength to his advantage. So he's not going to go and become a better grappler. He's going to go and he's going to go and develop his grappling skills in a way that's going to complement his striking. So he knows that he's a better striker. So he's going to work his takedown defense. He's going to work his sprawl and roll tactics. He's going to work his his fight. He's going to evolve his fight IQ to where he can keep the fight standing. Right. So in his first 5 UFC fights, you see everybody trying to take him down. You see Marvin Vettori, his first fight with Marvin Vettori. Marvin tried desperately to take him down, got him down a few times, but his focus was to always get back up and always get strikes off. And that's exactly what he did. And that's what got him to where he was. His only loss in his MMA career to Jan Blachowicz was an extremely unfortunate one. It was just a matter of him being outsized. It wasn't because his skill wasn't there. He was outstriking Jan Blachowicz for the first 3 rounds.
Yeah, he was.
In the second but in the 4th and the 5th rounds, he just got taken down, and Jan Blachowicz was about 25 pounds bigger than him on fight day, which is a massive weight difference.
Yes,
right?
massive weight.
He weighed in 7 pounds. He weighed in about 4 pounds under the weight limit on the day of the weigh-ins. So. So he was massively undersized for that fight. So that doesn't truly justify his ability to grapple. It's that it just shows you the importance of weight classes over there.
Yes, it's very important, right? To maintain that sort of a weight in that weight class, right? Something that Johnny, right? He's doing now that he's going
Jones,
up. John Jones now that he's going to the heavyweight class. He's trying to get as much more weight than above the weight class as well, right? Ultimately, if maybe I'm wrong, we have seen the grapplers really coming big time now. You have got Usman, of course. Now he's of course a good striker also, like we saw against Masvidal. We saw him ultimately, knock him down. But we also had Khabib, who was good ground game. So do you think that the wrestlers, the grapplers, so to say, getting the upper hold slightly nowadays, or maybe I don't know.
I understand what you're saying, of course. You have seen grapplers being very successful. And what you need to understand in the sport of MMA is that the wrestler in the fight will dictate where the fight takes place. If the wrestler wants to take you down, that's where the fight is going to be. Because if the striker or the person that he's facing, even if he's not a striker, is on the ground, the pace is being dictated by the guy that's on top usually, right? Unless you're a very proficient Jiu-jitsu guy, which in which case it's a completely different conversation. But again, to answer your question, I do think that wrestling is a very important part of it, and wrestlers are taking over MMA in a sense, but it's wrestling for MMA. So it's not necessarily somebody going on the ground. It's somebody that can keep you standing against the cage as well, that can keep you pressed up against the cage, that can keep that constant pressure on you. So what Khabib used to do was to back people up against the cage and try and drag them down from the cage, not necessarily just pick them up, put them down in the middle of the cage, because there's a lot of room for somebody to stand up. There's a lot of room for somebody to work in the middle of the cage. When he has your head pressed up against the cage, there's not really much place for you to go, right? So using your environment to your advantage is incredibly important. And that's exactly what grapplers for MMA have been able to do, have been able to evolve about, have been able to evolve about their game plan and their preparation leading up to a fight. So the importance of cage wrestling, the importance of being able to keep somebody on the cage, drag somebody down from the cage, because the cage adds a whole different dynamic to it. And somebody's top pressure having to be effective, because sometimes if your top pressure is just like if you're just like a bull, you're going to get caught in some sort of submission, or you're going to get caught on a strike from the ground. Right? There's so many different things that can happen to you, so you're forced to work everything. Now, in the case of Kumaru Usman versus Jorge Masvidal in their first fight, what did he do? He didn't take him down too many times, right? Masvidal stuffed 8 takedown attempts, which is unheard of against a guy like Usman. Because both of them were not preparing for each other, so it was very difficult to gauge what was going to happen. In the second fight, Usman had established what he was so good at. But this is the importance of being good at everything. That's how the sport is always evolving. With time, you see Usman is like a fine wine. He gets better with time. So you see him working everything. You see him working his cage, his wrestling for MMA with, on the cage. You see him working his wrestling in the center of the cage. And then you see his strikes evolving the way they are, right? He beat the shit out of Colby Covington in their fight. You don't mind if I use language, right?
I know.
You don't mind if I use... Okay, cool, awesome. Thank you. I have to ask every time because some people say, "Oh, no, you can't say that."
I know you MMA guys.
Yeah, my bad. But yeah. So Kamaru Usman beat the shit out of Colby Covington in their fight in the 4th round and the 5th round, and he knocked him out in the 5th round with a very stiff. I mean, he knocked him down with a very stiff cross, which set him down on his butt. It broke his jaw. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And what's another example? He beat Woodley everywhere. He beat Tyron Woodley everywhere in his fight to get the title against Tyron Woodley at the time, who was the champion. You saw him take down a very well-established All-American wrestler over a course of and beat the crap out of him for like 5 rounds, right? So you saw him dominate somebody that's also good everywhere. It just shows you his level, right? So Kamaru Usman, in my opinion, is one of the first in a long time of proper champions. Who's defended his title time and time again. Who's been an active champion and who's just getting better in every way. But to answer your question, I do think that grappling is an incredibly, I would say 70% of your MMA game should be in and around different forms of grappling and effective grappling for MMA.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, I guess even Masvidal, he was a little bit tentative because he thought that he would hold his leg, So I mean,
he would get taken down.
Taken down. That's where he got faked, I think. And otherwise he's on a typical boxing match, you can't take Masvidal down, right? I mean, he's that good.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah. But then he was always prepared that he might come for his legs, and that's where he really got caught, right? Yeah. True.
Yeah.
So that's what MMA is all about, right? I mean, you have to be good at everything, I guess. Yeah. True. And so I mean, how's it seen in Pune's MMA? Of course, I mean, I have seen you,
Yeah. Well, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you want the honest answer? Do you want the
honest answer?
Right?
Honest.
Okay. So MMA has been a part of Pune's. I can't say culture, but it has been in Pune for a long time.
Yeah.
There's very few legitimate coaches in Pune, and there's a lot of people that will be very fake about the sport. They'll use the tag of MMA and sort of teach Taekwondo. They'll use the tag of MMA and teach boxing, kickboxing. They'll teach them very rudimentary Jiu-jitsu, very ineffective, very like, I'm sorry to say, but Jiu-jitsu that you teach aunties, like Jiu-jitsu, for fitness, and they'll say, this is an armbar, this is a triangle. Like it's very ineffective, and it's very disrespectful to the sport, And I've met plenty of people, and it's pissed me off plenty. But I was very lucky to be introduced to one of the most legitimate MMA coaches in the country, who was running his gym in Pune. It was known as Ismail Haji Combat Club, and my coach, and it was run by my coach Ismail Haji. Unfortunately, the academy had to shut down due to COVID last year because we couldn't pay rent for 10 months. So I don't know. So they had to shut the place down. Then a new academy opened up called Martial Arts and Fitness Academy in Salonke Vihar in Pune. It was run by my teammate, and and he was my coach Ismail's student as well. His name is Mudassir Sheikh. He opened up this gym, and unfortunately, the gym had to shut 2 months after it opened because of COVID. I mean, the second wave of COVID again.
Okay.
Right. So very unfortunate. Very unfortunate circumstances. Then Pune has now. On the other side of Pune and Baner, there's one gym which I feel is pretty legit. It's Ultimate Fitness. It's called Ultimate Fitness Club. Yeah. So there's maybe 2, 3, and what is that? Wolf Crow MMA, which is in Bavdan. Right. So there's 3 properly legitimate gyms in Pune, and I don't know if there are any more because a lot of the legit fighters in Pune take a lot of personal training. So we're not really teaching out of a gym because given the current situation, that's how it is. But for the longest time, Ismail Haji Combat Club dominated the Pune MMA scene, and for good reason, because we trained out of a room that was not more than 420 square feet, and we made 6 national champions.
Wow.
In the course of the 10 years that he had been open.
Wow.
And not a lot of us competed, but the ones that did, we always ended up placing in the top 3 in any nationals. And when I started competing, I really started to I started to see and have respect for gyms around the country that had been around for so long. So, but if you wanted to get successful at MMA, you can't just be in one place. Like, you have to go everywhere. You have to try everything. You have to train with people. You have to train with new people.
True.
Sometimes you end up fighting the people that you train with as well. So that's pretty unfortunate. But yeah, that was the scene with MMA in Pune.
Yeah, I've seen you training with Kevin now. Of course, he's got his Swiss Villa fame. He's also MMA guy.
Yeah. Kevin's pretty legit, man. Like Kevin knows his shit. Kevin trains with American top team in Low County in America, where he's from, in Charleston, America, where he trains right now. He used to train with Ismail sir and I. He had a background in karate when he was a kid, so he's pretty well versed with martial arts all his life. So he's got this weird dexterity in his legs when he kicks, and his jiu-jitsu. Yeah. He's a white belt in jiu-jitsu, so am I, but he's not a white belt. He's a white belt, but he's not a white belt. Like, you see that he's much better than a white belt. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, he's got different stuff going on in his life, man. So
Now, I mean, what do you have to say about the boxing guys calling upon the UFC guys for a boxing match? I mean, we had.
You're asking such tough questions.
I know you're a boxer, but still I have to ask you. But ultimately, you're an MMA guy, so I'll call you more an MMA guy than a boxer, I guess. But I think you're
definitely
right. So I think,
and I'm glad I'm part of MMA more than boxing right now.
Oh, is it then? Okay.
So.
No, because we had somebody like Floyd Mayweather, calling up on Conor McGregor. Of course, I mean it's so I don't know how fair or unfair it is. I don't know. Yeah, because you'll never have a boxer coming into a cage and fighting the UFC guys. Right?
I was just going to say that the funny part is you'll never see a boxer stepping into an MMA cage, because you know that they would get absolutely fucked up with the first leg kick that they got into their legs, right? Because they virtually never train any other sport, because boxing, again, now I'll give you the good and bad side to it. Boxing on its own has been around since, has been like properly established and has been around since the early 1900s, right? So there have been promotions in place since for over 100 years now, right? And you see the sport having evolved so much over such a long period of time, right? You see, and that's why there's so much more money in it, which is why boxers gravitate more towards, which is why MMA fighters sometimes gravitate more towards boxing to get money. Yes. Case in point, Ben Askren fighting a fucking YouTuber, man. I mean, that guy,
Jake Paul,
a YouTuber who genuinely has pretty explosive knockout power in his hands, because he trains the right way. Yeah. But again, he's not facing. You take Ben Askren's wrestling over, you take away his entire arsenal, right? Because he's so one-dimensional, and he's got little to no boxing. He's got little to no boxing in his repertoire. So you see these boxers taking out a case in point. Another case in point is Anderson Silva. That he's going to be facing Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Now, Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. is one of the greatest boxers of all time. With 100+ fights. And having one of the most storied careers. So his son. So you can only imagine how good his son is, right? I mean, his son has got the reputation of being a bit of a daddy's boy and not, and not being the most legit boxer compared to who his dad was. But I guess it's hard to get out of that shadow. Nonetheless, he's about to fight a washed-up Anderson Silva, and I say washed up with all due respect to Anderson Silva. I love Anderson Silva. You take away his kicks, you take away his grappling. Yeah, exactly. You take away his kicks, you take away his grappling. You take away his you take away his jiu-jitsu. You take away his, in boxing, you can't really be that dynamic, because Anderson Silva throws a lot of spinning techniques. In boxing, you can't do that. Right? You have to be very straightforward. You have to, you can be deceptive, but you can't really, you can't really mix it up as much as you want to, or as much as you could in MMA. So you see Anderson Silva at 40 years old being matched up with the 28-year-old killer, right? Which is very unfortunate, because and these guys do it for the money. So from a business standpoint, I completely understand where they're coming from. Because at 40, you want big money. You're not taking fights to compete and be a champion. Fuck that. No way. You're not fighting some 27-year-old killer for the honor of it, right? And so you either do it for money, or you either do it because you're stupid. Now you have to choose which one you are. And and frankly speaking, boxing is now, so it's put a bad taste in my mouth, because Jake Paul, 24 years old, he literally made the greatest boxer, arguably the greatest boxer of all time, in my opinion, Floyd Mayweather, look almost bullied in that video where he stole his hat and started running away. He's like, got your hat. 3 hours later, he went and got a tattoo on his arm or his
Yeah.
leg or somewhere saying "Got your hat."
Yeah.
Right. So it's become a complete circus, and it's become
Yeah.
it's such a shame that you see the greatest of all time sort of falling victim to that sort of
Yeah.
pub-
And
that sort of cheap
Mayweather
publicity.
is the clown of the circus, right? Of all people.
Exactly. Usually he's the bad guy, but he's the guy
Yeah.
that's getting bullied this time. So it just shows you exactly where the sport is.
Yeah.
And the sport is moving in the direction of YouTubers versus TikTokers, TikTokers versus YouTubers, TikTokers versus TikTokers.
Yeah.
And it pisses me off so much because there are hardworking fighters from different parts of the world that put in hours and hours and weeks and months and years of their lives into this sport that they love so much, and they don't get shit for it.
True. Yeah.
And you see these people who make 30-second dance videos, take on multi-million-dollar contracts to fight just because people want to watch them fight. That's a shame.
Yeah. True.
And the good part about MMA is that would never happen in MMA, which is why it's always evolving, because it focuses on quality over quantity.
True. Yes.
There are many boxers in this world. There are many good boxers in this world that don't make it just because there's so many people in MMA, because there's not so many people, or maybe there are, I don't know. But there's so few good people that they actually break into the 1% of the 1%, which is the UFC, which is Bellator, which is one championship. So you see these guys in the limelight and you see exactly how good they are. Yeah. Right. Which is why the sport is ever evolving. You let these fucking TikTokers and YouTubers break into Top Rank, Showtime, Ringside. They're being aired on international television and on pay-per-view. So it just shows you where both these sports are at in terms of their in terms of their evolution.
So I mean,
that's my take on it.
True. But I guess I don't know. I mean, if you answer to this, but that's what Jake Paul also said. It's because the UFC guys are so poorly paid. That's the reason. Those boxers are so-called boxers. I'm saying, like a Jake Paul is could still lure somebody from the UFC to a boxing ring. I mean, that's what he's thinking.
I mean, I don't disagree with you at all. I don't disagree with that, because that's a very unfortunate truth about it. Unless you're Conor McGregor, you're not earning over $1 million.
He's the richest guy now.
You're earning a couple of $100,000 a fight, which is for somebody that trains much more than a boxer would. I'm sorry to say, but these guys train a lot more than boxers, train a lot harder and smarter, and in more different ways. In more different ways, and they have to train their brains in different aspects of the sport. They don't earn in that proportion at all. I think that close to going to war in the army, this is the closest thing that or in the army, Air Force, Navy, whatever. This is the closest thing that you would get in sport, right? You're literally preparing for battle.
Also in boxing, it's like if you're knocked down, the referee will count down, right? 10, 9, But in UFC, if somebody knocked down, he will be grounded and pounded by the other guy, right? Till he's choked or whatever.
Absolutely.
And all, so I guess UFC that way, like you rightly said, I mean, it's when it comes to multi-level, I mean, you need to train more, right? In terms of the different aspects of the game. And true. So who is your favorite guy in the MMA? I mean, there's so many guys now, but
very good question. It's a good question. Honestly, I haven't thought about it too much, because I try to focus on myself. So I look at my own evolution, and I look at, where, how far I've come. So I don't know, I focus more on myself to say that I idolize somebody, but for argument's sake, I'll tell you that Mike Chandler, for sure.
Oh, really?
Mike Chandler.
Okay.
Yeah. I know that he just lost, but man, that guy is, I wake up every morning, and if I'm ever feeling, unmotivated to get up and train, I'm feeling unmotivated in my day, just generally, I put on a video of Mike Chandler, and he just, there's something about his energy, there's something about his work ethic, about, the man he is, the family man that he is, because that's eventually who I want to be. Like, I want to be a good family man, but I also want to be a champion one day, right? So, and in addition to that, if I've ever had a question, I've always reached out to him on Instagram, and he's always been nice enough to take the time and reply to me.
Wow.
He's always, he's very helpful that way. He's always very, very helpful that way, and that's something that I appreciate and I've taken from.
True.
I've always taken an example from that. So I never shy away from asking from answering anybody's questions. I always listen to somebody's problems and I address them. Like if somebody genuinely has a problem or somebody genuinely has a question, because Mike has done that for me, and because he's just been this, he's been such an inspiration to me, I try to be more like him in terms of his personality and in terms of who he is as a man. not just as a fighter.
It passes on, right? I mean, yeah, that vibe just
Absolutely.
passes on. True.
Absolutely.
Now in India, if you see, we have also got a lot of female fighters coming up, right? I mean, we've got Ritu Fogart, we've got Roka, Asha Roka, and so many other.
Asha Roka,
so many other female fighters also. So I think that's a very good trend also, right? I mean, apart from the male guys, we also got a lot of female. I mean, Ritu Fogart lost a very close fight, right? Split decision that she lost to.
I don't think she lost the fight though. But one championship has a different rule set, and they give precedence to strikes as well. Now, under the unified MMA rules that the UFC and Bellator and Brave Combat Federation and most of the other organizations in this world that they follow, there's a certain rule set where they give you points for cage control, they give you points for control time on the ground. And control time on the ground doesn't necessarily mean controlling somebody from the bottom. If you're on top, you're winning the round. Even if you're inactive, you're winning the round as long as you're on top, which is a very sad thing, which is why some people just grab their opponent and sit there the whole round. Right. And sometimes you get bad referees that don't break up the fight, or sometimes you get referees that stand the people up, even if they're working. But anyway, one championship's rule set, and I think it favors it helps strikers a lot. Because you saw Demetrius Johnson get knocked out on the ground, where it's legal to ground somebody on the knee. It's legal to knee somebody on the ground. So that's exactly what happened to him. What Nguyen did against Ritu Fogart was she was always landing shots whenever Ritu kept taking her down. Every time she held her against the cage, she sprawled and she was throwing elbows, she was throwing hammer fists. And she was getting points for that. So she was racking up points. She knew she wasn't going to knock Ritu Fogart out. Ritu's got a chin made of iron. And she's got a body made of fucking, I don't know, she's like she's like an Indian superwoman, right? She's virtually indestructible. So you saw her sort of rack up points and rack up small pop shots, and you saw her win the fight slowly. So even if it was a split decision, I don't think it was incorrect. I think that she just did the smarter thing. Although it didn't look like she won, she just did the smarter thing.
Just kept on hitting even if you're down.
So the fact that she won didn't necessarily mean that she won the fight. You know what I mean? Like if you understand what I'm saying. So it doesn't look like she won, but technically she won.
Right. So I guess it's more to do with one championship also having individual Muay Thai and kickboxing champions, right? So I think that mentality is there. It's about more of a striking thing, right? Yeah, I guess it comes from there. True. So Karan, now.
Female.
True.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Talking about the chin, I just came to my mind. And now talking about the toughest chin, who do you think will have the toughest? Because we've got somebody like Tony Ferguson who just can't. But according to you, again, it's a very subjective question. According to you, who would have the toughest chin?
Yeah, incredibly.
In MMA.
It's a very ambiguous way of putting it. I know, but toughest chin depends on what situation it is. Like honestly, having a tough chin is not a brag. Like I don't feel it's a brag. I feel like having better head movement, having better defense. But fine, to answer your question, somebody I've seen constantly take shots and walk through them, definitely Tony Ferguson. But you see him getting dominated in different ways now. It's people know how to work their way around him. One person who's got a chin made of iron is the current heavyweight champion of the world, Francis Ngannou, because you've seen him take heavy shots from these monster heavyweights and walk through them. Isreal Adesanya, although he's been knocked out once in his kickboxing career by Alex Pereira, very early on in his career. I think that he's got another very good chin because he kept walking through Yoel Romero's punches. He kept avoiding them well. But I guess it was his defense also that was helping him. So you can't very clearly state whose chin is better than the others. But again, to answer your question, probably Tony Ferguson or Ngannou.
Okay. Yeah. And also we saw, Tony Ferguson, whose leg just popped out. That's a different thing. Okay, it's not to do with chin. But he still kept on fighting, right? In the last
Tony
fight.
Ferguson is definitely mentally, physically, spiritually one of the toughest people I've ever seen.
You just can break him down, right?
He caught him in a heel hook, man. And if you saw his fight with Charles Oliveira, Charles almost broke his arm, man. It was a very nasty thing to see. And in the fight immediately after that, you saw Beneil Dariush catch him in this incredibly scary looking heel hook. Where he said that I felt Tony's knee pop. Tony said my knee popped, but fuck that. I'm moving on and fighting. I don't care. So it takes a different kind of human being. It takes a different breed of human being to be able to perform like that, perform like that under pain, under pressure, under people calling your name out, people cheering for you. It's so many factors go into you being tough.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's just you, and he's just this ball of indestructible energy, and it's awesome to see.
True. Yes. True. Yeah. Yes, MMA is tough. So
very
Karan,
tough.
very tough. Yeah. So Karan, now we'd like to move on to a few quick fire rounds, quick fire questions.
Absolutely. Go
ahead.
Ready?
Yeah.
Let me warm up 1 second. Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So kickboxing or Muay Thai?
Kickboxing.
Why? Why so?
Well, because I feel like the striking in kickboxing is far more dynamic. Although there's no elbows and you can't clinch, I feel like the striking that comes out of kickboxing is far more effective, and it's just a higher pace of fighting, which is more exciting to watch.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I somehow thought Muay Thai because there's nothing called defense in Muay Thai, right? You just keep on coming towards.
There is. There is, but there's a lot to explain. We'll have to do another 3 episodes if we talk about the difference of between kickboxing and Muay Thai. So
sure. UFC or one championship?
UFC.
Okay.
For the reason that it's just been there for so much longer, and for it being almost a monopoly in the world of MMA, but one championship is catching up, I dare say.
Yeah. True. So your dream fight against any active MMA star? Whom would you like to?
That's a fantastic question. I would love to fight Peter Yan. I would love to fight Peter Yan.
Is it?
I would get murked. I would get fucked up, but I would love to fight Peter Yan.
Okay. Why so? Any special reason? Of course, there are so many reasons, but
he's one of the most dangerous fighters I've ever seen in my life, and for me, the greater the challenge is. So either Peter Yan or Charles Oliveira.
Is it? Okay.
Although they're not in my weight class, but I would go to that weight to probably fight the person just because of their fighting styles. Like Charles is so good everywhere. He's so technical. He's so refined. He's never out of position. He's never off balance. He's never anything like that. So I want to fight somebody like that one day. And Peter Yan, just because he's so vicious and he's so nasty and he's got this menace on his face when he's fighting. To fight and I fight like that sometimes, and I don't show a lot of mercy. I don't show a lot of mercy when I fight. I'm usually a very nice guy outside the cage, and I'm hugging and I'm hugging and fist bumping my opponents, and I stay friends with everybody. But this guy, I don't know. I like how vicious he is in the cage, and I try to emulate that whenever I'm fighting. So if ever I'm feeling too unmotivated for a fight or something, I look at a video of Peter Yan right before I walk out, and it sort of ignites something in me. So it wakes something up in me. So.
True.
I would definitely love to fight him.
Yeah, I guess. So I think Charles Oliveira is a very technical fighter, right? Even if even if he uses his hand, this hand is always in the defense. He's that kind of a guy, right? So I think so. If you really have to choose between a gorilla kind of a guy, like we had seen, like Mike Chandler, or a technical fighter like a Charles Oliveira, whom would you go with? Would you go with a?
Depends on your body type. Depends on your body type, and depends on if you know how to use your body, like your body structure to your advantage. Now, however much Charles Oliveira tries, he's never going to hit as hard as Chandler does. Although he knocked Chandler out, he didn't hit him as hard. He just caught him at the right time. Right? He knew how to time what he was. He knew how to time what he was throwing. And there's different factors that go into it. There's fast twitch muscle fiber. There's just a different style of fighting, and he's built. So Mike Chandler's got he's shorter, but he's got these tree trunks for legs, which help you spring off, and they help you punch a lot harder, and they help you be more athletic, more explosive. But you see a guy in Charles Oliveira that just knows how to use leverage, like because he's so lanky. He's definitely not as strong. He may be. I don't know. I've never felt his power, but you see that he knows exactly how to use leverage. He knows how to grab the correct part of the body to move you in a certain way. He knows how to strike you at the right time with the with having your head or your body positioned in the way that he wants it. So there are all these different factors that go into it. So there's no one right answer. But given that I'm one of I'm for my weight class, I'm tall and I'm lanky, so I'm 5'10.5", which is pretty tall for a featherweight. Like I fight at 65 kgs at featherweight. So I'm sort of tall for my weight class, and I'm also lanky now. The fact that I don't have too much muscle on my body sort of works in my it works in my favor whilst throwing up submissions, whilst like when I'm boxing people. So I've beaten up a lot of taller, skinnier guys in my life. So I'm somewhere in the middle. So I get to use different facets of my game, almost like Cub Swanson, because Cub Swanson's not too tall, he's not too short. He just knows how to use what he has to use against potentially taller guys or shorter guys.
Okay. Okay, great.
Right. So I have to keep changing it around, but I would definitely choose being the taller fighter like Charles.
Taller fighter, true.
Yeah.
The next MMA superstar from India? There's so many guys now coming up.
Besides myself, I'm kidding.
Yeah, of
course. No, I'm kidding. But
I know you're not
active pros. As of now, one of my favorite active pros, and who also happens to be a friend, well, Instagram friend, but a friend of mine. His name is Anshul Jubli. He's 4-0 as a pro in India in Matrix Fight Night. He is one of the best, most well-rounded fighters I've ever seen. And if you see that guy going, like I definitely see that guy making it to one of the biggest promotions in the world, because he's just so good everywhere, and his skill set is so refined that I don't think that I don't think it's going to be very long before we see him in a major promotion. You know, not to say that Matrix Fight Night isn't. It's just not the caliber of. It's just not got the caliber of fighters that he can potentially be facing. Right. So he's good everywhere. Anshul Jubli. Check him out from Cross Train Fight Club in Delhi.
Yeah.
Anshul Jubli.
Definitely.
Yep.
Anshul Jubli, right? Okay.
Yep.
So which
next big thing in MMA?
Oh, is it? Which weight?
He fights at lightweight. He
lightweight,
fights at lightweight, 70 kilos. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow.
155.
Great. Wow, that's good.
Yep.
Great. Yeah. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how big is Arjun Singh Bhullar, win in the heavyweight one championship on a scale of 1 to 10? How big it is for India,
Oh, I think it's 1,000 out of 10, man. Because him breaking into that club of champions, like being a champion in one championship right now is not an easy thing, because these guys from one championship are beating up former UFC fighters, and UFC is for very long known to be a monopoly in the sport. The UFC, I want to say, is the 1% of the 1% of fighters, but you really can't say that anymore because of the caliber of fighters in other organizations, right? So Arjun Bhullar being a champion at heavyweight, like you don't see a lot of bigger Indian guys. You see a lot of Indian guys at bantamweight. You see a lot of Indian guys at featherweight, at flyweight. You don't see a lot of them in the heavyweight classes. So for Arjun Bhullar to be a heavyweight champion and for an Indian to be the heavyweight champion of the world, a person of Indian origin, obviously he's born and raised in Canada, but a person of Indian origin to be representing India, breaking into the league of heavyweight champions, I think it surpasses any scale that you can put it on. I think that it's so amazing that we have this person now who can sort of show a boy in a village, he can show his parents, like Arjun ne hame kara ke dikhaya ye, to main bhi kar sakta hu ekdam, right? True, Conor McGregor was that stepping stone for the guys from Ireland, right? Because there was nobody to show. There was no proper pathway, right? You can't show somebody this fight and say, no, this guy did it, so I can do it. Arjun Bhullar is one of those guys for us, finally. So we finally have one of those guys, and very quickly catching up is Gudarshan Gudarshan Singh Mangat. Mangat. Yeah, he's again born and raised in Canada and of Indian origin. So, but at the end of the day, he's Indian. And it's amazing to see these guys doing such great things in their careers, and it's, I don't know, it almost brings a tear to my eye sometimes when I see it. So even when Ritu Fogart was on this tear of when she was beating these girls, you sort of see exactly how good somebody can get given the right tools, given the right skill set, given the right training, right? Surrounded by the right people in the right environment, right? So it takes all those different. As much as MMA is an individual sport in the cage, there's a team of people. It's never really an individual sport. You always have a team of people around you, helping you get better, helping you make the right business decisions, because without making the right business decisions, you can be the best fighter in the world. That doesn't matter. As long as you're not making the right moves, you're not getting anywhere, right? You're not making the big bucks. You're not making it onto the big show. So you have to have the right team of people around you, and that's exactly what these people have.
True. Yes, definitely. Now, I mean, we of course have judo as a discipline in the Olympics. We have karate, taekwondo, so to say, in the Olympics. Boxing, of course, wrestling, of course. But would you see MMA as a discipline in the Olympics in the course of time? So
the International Mixed Martial Arts Federation, or IMAF, the the World Championships, which I went for. Yeah. So they are trying to get MMA recognized as an Olympic sport.
Is it? Okay.
With the Olympic Committee. Right. So I think that we're definitely going to see MMA in the Olympics one day.
Yes.
Maybe not one day soon, but definitely one day,
Yeah,
because it's the most comprehensive way of determining who's the best fighter. Right. You can be the best kicker as a Taekwondo fighter. You can be the best, you can be the best wrestler. You can be the best grappler as a judo guy. You can be the best boxer, but you can never be the best fighter unless you fight in MMA. Right. Unless you have the ability to mix it up and to do the right things against different types of people, you can't really determine who the best fighter is in the world. And the IMAF World Championships is essentially the Olympics for MMA. So, I'm very proud to say that I've been a part of that.
Yes, you are. Yeah.
I'm very proud to say that I've been a part of something so big in this world. But the day that it does get into the Olympics, it's going to absolutely explode the world of combat sports. It's going to explode in the world of combat sports, and it's going to take over. It's going to take over like it has been taking over in professional sports. It's going to take over amateur sports. You're going to see people from different disciplines transitioning into MMA, because you can be. MMA is now, again, it's a sport, and sports are for people that are young, people that are able. So you can't have some 50-year-old truck driver with knockout power to just walk into a cage. You have to be a proper
It's a very young sport, right? MMA.
Yeah. It's a sport for young people. It's a sport for people that are able and are physically, mentally, spiritually very strong, right? Which happens when you have a certain amount of physical ability when you're young. And I feel like MMA is going to take over the world of combat sports and the world of sports.
I'm sure. Sure. And so where will you see Karan Chauhan? I mean, Chauhan in 5 years' time? I mean, not of course as an athlete, MMA athlete also, or even otherwise. You might also have other things in mind because you're also coaching or whatever it is. Of course, you're too young to be coaching. I'm not at all getting into that. But I'm just overall trying to see where you're trying to feel yourself in the next 5 years.
So more than coaching anyway, I'm going to tell you two things. Besides wanting to be a champion of the world one day, like I definitely want to make it to the UFC or any big major promotion one day. That is my goal. That is what I'm working for. That is why I'm making preparations to go abroad. That's why I'm making preparations to go abroad and train.
So you're doing that?
To go abroad, train, study, and to settle. Hopefully, yes. I'm not going to say where. But I'm definitely planning to move abroad and make make this my life for sure. Apart from that, what I want to do when I'm done fighting, or whilst I'm fighting to earn money, and to stay involved with combat sports, is I either want to get into commentating, I either want to get into sport analytics, or I want to get into sport media. I want to do either of these three things. Right. So I'm going abroad to potentially study sport management or sport journalism. Right. So or sport analytics or sport administration, whatever course I get now. But I definitely want to do something with the sport, which is why I have my own podcast, which is why I'm reaching out to different people, which is why I reach out to coaches. I have conversations with them. I pick people's brains. I love making contacts from around the world. So potentially want to get into athlete management as well one day after I retire from fighting. So so those are some of the things that I'm planning to do. So my first move is to potentially move abroad. Sign up with a good team. That is willing to have me, that is willing to get me good fights, and help me succeed and be the best me possible.
Sure, Karan. And I'm sure you're still young. You're only getting better. Great things are ahead of you. Just stay strong and keep on working. And of course, I keep on following you, so I know how hours of work you're putting in. I know things are difficult now, but you're still making the most out of it. And so I'm sure great things are ahead of you. And all the best from all of us, Karan. Thank you so much, Karan.
Thank you so much.
It's really been I mean, you just opened up everything. It was really great chatting with you, Karan. Thank you so much.
Before I go, I want to Before I go, I want to say that you just mentioned that things are difficult, but you have to keep working. For anybody that's listening to this, just know that even though things are hard, things are only as hard as you make them to be. Things are only as difficult as you perceive them to be. Now, you can either sit and complain about it. You can either sit and bitch and whine about why everything isn't opening up, or you can get up off your ass and go do some work. Make yourself put yourself to good use. Make your day productive with whatever tools you have. If you have a flaw, I'm sure you can kill yourself doing burpees. There's no limit to how good you can get in any aspect of life. So stop whining about it. Stop trying to feel sorry for yourself. Get up and do something with it. And we're all in this together for sure.
Great words. Definitely. I mean, and also I think this is also the time wherein the guys who really think that things haven't changed that much, they're really going to
Mhm.
come out on top, right? Because it's just that you're not
Yeah.
letting the external environment affect you, and there are also at the same time there are other guys who are letting those affect, right? So I think this is also a great
Only the
opportunity.
greats find a way.
Yeah, true.
Only the greats find a way.
Find a
Only
way,
people that are willing to find a way will
Yes.
always find a way.
Always find it.
No matter what.
Yes. So that's great spirit, Karan. Yeah, and thank you so much, Karan. And we'll again meet up soon. And till then, all
Absolutely.
the best. And yeah, keep on working hard. And yes, of course, we'll keep on
Thank you so
following
much.
you. And yes, in 5 years' time, we'll see you somewhere great. Thanks,
Thank you
man.
so much.
Thanks, Karan.
Means a lot coming from you.
Thanks.
Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.